down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls around the world. Man, it's weird that you get to connect with people in another state, another city so quickly. And I'm honored to introduce a great friend of mine. His name is Jeff Holst. I met him in Chattanooga. We did Investor Weekend Chattanooga, and this guy just impressed me with his just authenticity, his just openness of being a human being who has hit the pinnacle of society of becoming an attorney, and then dove into real estate, and then became a syndicator, then has a partner, then does a radio show called Old Fashioned, which is so gnarly because a close friend of mine loves old-fashioned drinks. So I think that's super cool. And so I know you've had not an easy life. I think can you turn your speaker down?
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
Is that your speaker that's feedback?
It could be. I'm not really sure. Is that better?
That's cool. Yeah, much better.
Okay, cool.
I don't know. It could be mine. So I connected with Jeff for several hours at Investor Weekend, and then I was like, man, this dude is amazing. And so he was honored to come speak in Oklahoma City at Investor Weekend. So he's on the radio show today because I wanted to let people know who this man is, his skill set, and how you can learn from Jeff Holst. So welcome to the Savvy Radio Show.
Hey, thanks, Stephen. I appreciate it.
All right. So real estate wasn't your first love and passion, an attorney of law of attorney, lawyer. How do you become a lawyer? Is that something that your parents told you at a young age, or you just woke up one day and said, I want to be an attorney? Because that's...
So my dad was an attorney, so I think I just kind of always was exposed to attorneys. But I remember once, and this is kind of a strange story, but I went to Deerfield Village or something like that, Greenfield Village in Detroit, and they had this person come in and talking about Abraham Lincoln. And I was maybe like 7 or 8 years old, and they said Abraham Lincoln was an attorney, and they said, hey, does anyone know what attorneys do? And I said, yeah, they make money. And so maybe that was it. Maybe I just wanted to make money. I don't know, but I enjoyed the law, but yeah, I mean, it's not what I do now.
No. So your dad's an attorney. Does he specialize in something specific?
So my dad's always been a business guy. So he did just general law, and he used that as a platform to build out small businesses.
Cool. And so you followed that, saw that, and then how'd you get into bankruptcy law? Again, were you chasing the dollar bill, or because it's such a
right? Well, so I mean, I graduated from law school in 2007. At that time, the economy was pretty good, but shortly after that, it wasn't so good. So I kind of fell into bankruptcy law because there was a lot of work. I went to work for myself initially. Had a small practice. I ended up hiring another attorney. And we were doing a little bit of criminal stuff, a little divorce stuff. But to be honest, I didn't really like dealing with criminals, and I didn't like fighting over kids. And so I just kind of did more and more bankruptcy over time.
Okay. So your journey was a little bumpy in there. You were solving people's bankruptcy problems, seeing them cry, seeing them hurt. What was that like as an attorney? And your goals as an attorney was based on trying to be wealthy. And did it ever rub you wrong to represent people? And were they using that as a crutch to succeed or to run away from their problems?
Well, I mean, sometimes. To be honest, most of the people that filed bankruptcy probably legitimately needed to file. I had a couple people come into my office that once I talked to them, it became pretty evident to me that they really didn't need to be talking about bankruptcy. And I would always share it with them that I didn't think it was the right solution for them. But occasionally they would say, never mind, and they would go to some other attorney who maybe would file a bankruptcy for them. My goal was always to help people out of whatever situation they were in. Sometimes that meant helping them settle some of their debts or restructuring their debts. It wasn't always just a one solution solves everything kind of situation.
So you practiced law, went through all those bumps and bruises, learned what to do, what not to do, and you still enjoyed the act of law. How did the transition from being an attorney, becoming a real estate investor, and now a syndicator? How does that all happen?
So that's it's a longer story than what we can maybe cover entirely. But the short version is I was diagnosed with leukemia in 2008, and I was working for myself, and I was off work for a while, and I built up a pretty big pile of debt. I was about $4,000 a week just to break even at the law firm, pay the other people and stuff, and we didn't have any money coming in, and it went pretty bad. I actually thought I was going to die for a while. And then after about a year of struggling through that, I made a recovery health-wise, but I just had such a huge hole. I just said, I got to do something different. At that time, my dad had started a trucking company in Chattanooga, and I was up in Michigan. And he offered me a job, and I just said, you know what? I've got this pile of debt. I don't see any way out of it. And I ended up, throwing the towel in myself and filing bankruptcy and taking a job making $600 a week working at a trucking company. It wasn't the best thing, but it worked out really well for me because I was able to, from that bottom place, really dig in deep and sort out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life.
Wow. I don't see that being, this overcoming leukemia. Let's talk about that. Like, are you healed, or do you deal with this on a regular basis? In the fear of that alone, I'm like, the bankruptcy is so minor compared to like life,
Well, yeah. So, obviously I want to stay living. So I am concerned about leukemia, but it's controlled. So it's not technically gone, but I take a 1-a-day pill and it's under control now. I'm actually really lucky. The type of leukemia I have, if I'd gotten it 5 years earlier, it would have killed me. The 5-year life expectancy of CML, which is the type that I have, was less than 5%. Now it's like 99%, right? Like it's just like this miracle pill came out right around the time I was diagnosed. I got into that program, and now everyone takes it. But before it was, more limited. I had to go down to MD Anderson, and I had to go through a bunch of hoops to get into it. But now that I'm there, I'm doing pretty well, actually.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, and we would have not met, so that's even better.
I'm glad I'm still alive. And, if you feel that kind of, where you really think you're going to die. I remember I was in the hospital, and I was talking to one of my family members, and they said, we're going to make plans to, do this for, I think we were going to go to Australia, actually. It was my dad wanted to go to Australia in February, and this was like September. And I said, I'm not even going to live till Christmas. Like, I really believed it. I thought I had a month or two to live. My white blood cell count was super high, and I'd had a cousin who had died of leukemia who, frankly, her white blood cell count hadn't ever gotten as high as mine. So I was convinced I was going to die for about 4 or 5 days. And that's about all it takes, actually. After a few days of believing you only have a few weeks to live, it changes your perspective, and it helps you reevaluate where you want to end up.
Man, I know that you're a man, and pride is a big deal, and, overcoming that obstacle. And then and then going back to your dad, I remember when my mom dropped me off at college, hey, if it doesn't work out, you can come home. And I'm like, I never came home, but it was always on my shoulder. And you went back to your dad. How did you overcome that mental strain of leukemia, leaving everything behind? How'd you pick up the pieces there? How'd you get through the process? Was it because you were alive, or is it deeper internally?
Well, so I've always had a different sort of life philosophy than a lot of people. When I was about 17 or 18, I decided I wasn't ever going to have a bad day. I was having a string of bad days then, and I said, this is stupid. Like, I'm alive. I live in America. It could be a lot worse. I'm going to figure it out. Right. And over the course of a few weeks, I just kept telling myself, hey, today's going to be a great day, over and over again, until it became like second nature to me. So much so that when I was in the hospital, when I was first diagnosed, I remember my brother came in and he said, "Oh man, I bet you finally had a bad day today." Like he was excited almost to tell me that I was going to have a bad day. And I'm like, nah, could be worse. I'm still alive. Like I just, and I'd done some great things before that. I'd done a lot of traveling and, so I really felt like, even if I died that day, that I lived the life that I wanted to live. And that was really important to me. And so I think that helped me in moving forward. I'm not saying it wasn't challenging, but I took each day and said, today's a good day. And now I just got to figure out how to make tomorrow a good day. And just by doing that one day at a time, I got to where I am now.
Bro, I just want to say that you're very magnetic. Just having dinner across from you and the passion and love that I saw with your wife and you, and now really understanding your story, it's pretty remarkable that you just have that type of attitude. And I think that you're going to be a great speaker because of that. People are just going to be attracted to you because what is life not lived, right? I mean, you went through hell, you came back, you're still fighting, you got a great new life ahead of you, however we want to make it is life. So you keep it in perspective. Walk us through, how do you sustain yourself? Like let's just go through a daily life of Jeff. Like, what time do you wake up? How do you sustain?
Okay, well, I hope I don't make anyone jealous because my life is pretty good, actually. I wake up when I want to wake up.
You're alive. You're alive, remember? Your life is pretty
right. Well, being alive is great anyway. But, I wake up when I want to wake up. It's usually my dogs that wake me up. They start whining or whatever and say, I got to get up. So I get up. It's not super late, 8:30, 8 o'clock, something like that. But I'll get up and I'll, do a little reading. I've been getting into the Miracle Morning. Have you ever heard of Miracle Morning? Yeah. I've been doing that. But I don't do the get up at 5 a.m. Miracle Morning. I do the get up at 8 a.m. Miracle Morning because that works for me. And I'll spend an hour or so every morning just kind of reflecting on the day and what I did the day before and kind of getting myself ready to go. And then I just tackle whatever it is that I have to do that day. Like it's the beginning of the month right now, so I'm out collecting rents this week. But
what? You're out collecting rents? Shouldn't it be like EFT, automatic transfer?
Yeah, it should be. I wish I could say I'm better at that. So I got kind of lazy on this. So I have a couple of partners, and one of my partners runs a property management company. He manages most of our stuff, and my other partner runs a different property management company and that he owns, and he manages some of that stuff. So the stuff that I manage, I don't know. It's not that many. It's just not that many units, so I just deal with it. I probably should, probably just have someone else do it at this point, but it gives me something to do, right?
All right. So you got financial freedom in there with your real estate. You have two different partners with two different real estate endeavors. How'd you get into real estate? You're driving a truck. Were you driving a truck or are you working inside
when I went to work at the trucking company, I did like dispatching and hiring of truck drivers and financing trucks, like helping buy trucks. And we grew from when I first started, we had 10 trucks and we ended up with 90 or 87 or something like that. Yeah, so we grew pretty good over about a 5-year period, and then ultimately we sold it out to a bigger trucking company. And since then, I haven't really had a job per se. I've just kind of done the real estate.
Yeah, you semi-retired. You put some of your earnings into real estate. Is that what turned you on real estate? How did that happen? I know you didn't read The Savvy Landlord because you didn't know who I was.
That's true. Although I will admit that, like, if I had read it, I might have been further ahead. So
yeah, you would be collecting rent, mother. That's for day, I'm sure.
Well, I'm gonna have to get you to teach me how to do that right. So
well, I want to learn. I love, one of the things that really turned me on about you, man, and I never told you this because we were so short, running around. You're like, I did the smart thing. I'm like, what is it? My partners are property managers.
That's true.
Like,
it's really good.
I was like, dude, that's effing ingenious. Like,
yeah,
I'm always the partner. When I partner with people, I'm the property manager and they're the funder or they're the lender or they're the finder of the property. That's so funny.
So both of my partners are great. So, to answer your question, really, how I got into real estate, I mean, I've always liked real estate. I remember driving around when I was a teenager, like, I'd see a big building and think someday I want to own a big building. That'd be fun, or a skyscraper. I'm not sure the economics are good on those, so I probably won't ever own one of those. But I mean, I just always thought it'd be cool to just own stuff. So it's always been an interest of mine. And then I read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I read, and I played the board game, and I watched like late night infomercials, and all this stuff, and it just seemed really attractive. So once I think really when I got sick, it kind of gave me, I dabbled in real estate before that, but it got me thinking about how short life is and how important it is to live life on your own terms. And real estate offered an opportunity to do that. So that's why I started saying, okay, now every dollar I get, I'm going to try to invest in real estate. And I've been, because I didn't have credit, I just filed bankruptcy. I had to be real creative about how I did it, but we got there, and it's been really good. So
your skill set to me is like you dig deep, you read the documents, you figure things out. That's what you bring a lot to the table. Is that why you got into syndicating? Because it's an advanced game. I dabble in it. It's not for the faint at heart. You really have to know what you're doing. You really have to read every flipping document. You have to work with attorneys. What drew you to just, like me, I'm a typical landlord. I own units. I have a management company. You kind of went to a different direction. You went right into syndicating. And it sounds like, you got the job with your dad, and then you turned it into a real CFO type of situation, or COO. Is that the same mindset you took with the real estate, or did you start out small with a couple of units, or did you just go straight into syndicating?
No, I started out with so my first real estate deal was with my partner Travis in Detroit, and we flipped a house when I was in law school. So that was the first time I ever did. And then after I started working for my dad, I had an opportunity to, remember it's 2010, right? And the market's terrible and everything's super cheap. And my friend Travis calls me and he says, I'm just buying all kinds of stuff. He's done really well because of that. And I have this deal, and it's a really great deal. It's a condo. It's a foreclosure. It used to be worth $130,000, and we can buy it for $30,000. Do you want to split it with me? And I said, yeah, sure. So I just wrote a check and bought that first condo. And it was a lot of money to me. Honestly, it was like my entire savings. Because, I was a year and a half after bankruptcy, 2 years after bankruptcy. And I'd been saving up some money, knowing that there would be an opportunity to invest somewhere. And that was it. That's the one we started with. And then was
that in Chattanooga or was that in Detroit?
It was in Detroit. Okay. It's in Metro Detroit. There was like Birmingham. So it's like a really nice suburb of Detroit.
Cool. And you still have that asset today?
We do. Yeah. We ended up buying another one in the same building about a month or two later. I didn't have the money then. So I ended up borrowing that from another friend of mine's Roth, actually, like a self-directed.
Cool. Private money.
So we bought that. I paid him back since, but we did that. So I got into the second one. And then we had these two paid off condos, and then the next little town over from there, we ran into this duplex that was on a double lot, and we thought that would be cool, like to own. It's like a really great property, and it was a land contract deal, which in Michigan it's like owner financing in Michigan. They call it land contracts. But it needed about like $40,000 down, and we didn't have the money. So we talked to another investor and said, hey, we've got these two paid off condos. Why don't you give us a mortgage against each condo? So we ended up taking mortgages against those and using that money to form a partnership with that partner. And we ended up with, each owning a third of the duplex. And we just kind of did that kind of stuff, and we just kept rolling from there. And we ended up borrowing almost $1 million in private money over the next couple of years.
Yeah. I'm so fascinated. I know that the bankruptcy pushed you to be creative. And when I got into the game, I was creative because I didn't have self-belief, or I didn't have a legit job. Man, you just stumbled in the gold mine of creativity of real estate. That's what makes real estate so special.
Yeah. Well,
did you know that at that time, or is that just, and this is like what, 10 years ago, less than 10 years ago? So were you just natural? This is how we do business? Or was it like, were you reading creative books on financing? Come on, man, you gotta.
I had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but that doesn't really cover these topics.
Like Robert G. Allen, like Nothing Down. Did you read?
I had not read that. I have now, but I had not at the time.
Wow. So you were just so hungry. I
just looked at the deals and said, these deals make sense. If we can borrow money at 6% interest only and buy them, then it's going to be a good return. And so it was just about finding people. And remember, people were scared. 2010, 11, stock market was down. But people were starting to make money again, and they didn't know what to do with it. And we're offering them 6%, guaranteed interest. They didn't have to think about it. They were going to get a check every month. And they were happy with it. So, and it was a relationship thing, right? It's just a couple of people we borrowed from, friends, family members, and that's it. And honestly, if I could do it over again, I might have started syndicating then, but I don't think I had the background to do it. What we do now requires a track record. If you're going to raise money for equity plays, even the stuff we did then required some track record, but we were able to say, hey, we've got these couple of cash flowing assets, and we can put those up as collateral. And then once we had one more, it was, each deal got a little bit easier. And a little bit more, we could say, look, we're making money here, we're making money here. And people just, they didn't see any other way to make money, and it worked out good for us, but it worked out good for them too. Nice, safe. We paid everyone. Some of the people we still owe money to, we pay them interest every month.
Okay, so what in the world, where'd you get this motivation from? Was it fun? Obviously, law school is not easy. There's some trigger inside of you. There's some drive inside of you, overcoming those obstacles, obviously, that you feel like you can do all things. What kept you motivated during this process? Was it the learning process of real estate? Was there a financial burden? Obviously, the leukemia costs a lot of money. Tell me, what was your drive? Was it easy? It
wasn't super easy, but it wasn't as hard as a lot of people think either. It's just about, staying focused. So what kept me motivated is, at that time I had in my head a certain number, and I said, if I make X dollars per month in income from real estate, then I don't have to worry about anything ever again, and I can live whatever lifestyle I want to live. And it turns out I did it for a while, and I got some money together, and I was fortunate enough to have a year where I didn't really have to work at all after I left the trucking company. And it turns out I like real estate. So the lifestyle I want to live is I want to buy real estate, and you can only buy so much. So the second part of your earlier question was, how'd you get into syndication? It's really a function of, when you're out buying bigger deals, you can only buy as many as you have money for. And if you can bring other people's money to the table, and get them nice solid returns, then you can buy more deals. And that's the part I like the most, is setting the deals up and seeing them come to fruition.
So now you're passionate about syndication. That's what you talk about. That's what you and Brian talk about. Is it now, what's the part do you like the most, finding the deal or raising the money? Good question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it is a good question. Thanks.
I was just playing. I'll just tease it.
Yeah, no, it's totally cool. So that's actually interesting. So I love putting the deals together. I like the creative side of it. It's like, I like being able to understand what somebody wants with their money, like what their goals are, and understanding what deals make sense for them. So I like that part of sorting through what makes sense, how to structure the deal so it's good for us and good for the investors. So it's kind of the creative side that I like the most. But the networking thing is really fun. We operate under, securities and exchange exemptions under Reg D. So we have to have relationships with people. So a big part of what I do now is I go out and talk to people, and I get to meet people that I wouldn't otherwise meet, and I learn from them, and it makes my real estate investing better. And it makes my life better, right? I get all kinds of interesting things that I can learn that other people are doing, and I can learn from that. And it's sort of like, the more you offer to people, the more they offer back, and it just keeps getting better and better. So it's just a lot of fun. That's what I like the most.
Just like us. I was randomly in Chattanooga, and we're on the radio show. You've inspired me. Just your vision. Why am I not syndicating more? Why am I not, being more creative?
Well, you're not syndicating more because you're saving all your money to put into my deals, right?
Absolutely. And we have a relationship when now we documented it.
That's right. We've got
I went through SEC compliance stuff. Yeah. So I'm familiar with syndicating. Okay. So you make it sound so sexy. It is. You get to hang out, you get to drink old fashioned drinks, whatever. What part of it is frustrating for you? Give us a story. Is it like, man, you got to raise $2 million? I was just in a syndication just last month where we had to raise $3 million. It didn't take us long. But tell me what bothers. I'll tell you what bothers me, and then maybe this could ignite something inside of you. What bothers me is that when someone gives you your money, and I get it, all of a sudden they want to own you. Like, it's like hula hoops with this dude. Like, buddy, you're like the lowest money on the tandem pole, but he wants the most time of telling them what we're doing. Hey, we got our software integration going. We raised our rents. We just updated these things. He's all up involved. That's the one thing I don't like. It's like, it's not that they don't trust us as what we're doing as investors, but it's frustrating that I have to kind of educate this individual. You're a passive investor. If you want to be the lead, by all means, please be the lead. But you got to understand this is a job. Now, that frustrates me. Now, what areas of syndicating? So you're a deal maker. You're creative. You're a little bumblebee, bumming around. Taking some honey, beating some relationships. What you don't like about it? What frustrates you in the syndication element? And a lot of people don't know what syndicating is. So you might want to start with what is syndication and what do you don't like about it?
Yeah. So, honestly, like, I think the starting point is when we're talking about it, and this is something that they do on a lot of shows that I listen to, they talk about it like people should know what it is. And you're right. A lot of people don't, but syndication from a simple perspective is pooling investor money with the intent of making a profit. So it could be anything. Like you and I could say, hey, let's pool our money together and, buy an ice cream store and start selling ice cream cones. Technically, that's a type of syndication. I mean, but the thing is, like, when you're doing real estate syndications, like what we do, you're really selling a security, right? I mean, it's the company owns the real estate and you're selling interest or membership interest or shares or however you structure it in that company. And so that's really typically what we're doing is limited partnerships. So what's happening is we're getting anywhere from 2 or 3 investors to a half dozen, maybe more, maybe 10, 12 investors together. And they're all putting in a small amount of money relative to the total pot. But if we're raising $1 million, let's say, somebody might put in 50,000, another person might put in 100,000, someone might put in 25,000. It just depends on how we have it structured, what that minimum is. And they all put in the money, and like you said, they're limited partners, so they don't have operational control, but they participate in the equity upside and the cash flow from that investment. And so that's kind of what a syndication is. So the second part of your question was really, how do you deal with people that are annoying? Or are there other things about syndication I don't like? So far, I haven't really had anything I don't like about syndication. I mean, it's not easy. It's fun, but it's a lot of work. Finding deals is tough in this environment. And then deals have to be good, right? So if I'm putting a deal together for myself, I might be willing to take a lower return because I feel comfortable with the speculative value of an asset in the future. But when I'm taking an investor's money, I've got to have a really clear plan of what I'm doing. I need to make sure that, one, I'm not going to lose their money, because that's a death blow, right? As soon as you lose money as a syndicator, I think, good luck on the next deal, right? Word gets around. Steven tells people, hey, that guy, he took my money and lost it. And then pretty soon you're on your radio show telling everyone how terrible I am and how you were wrong when you interviewed me this time. So we can't do that. So we got to find
the death blow. I think you're right. I mean, That's why I don't syndicate I participate in the syndications, but I'm not a lead. I was going to be a lead. And I'm like, this is a full-time job. Am I really going to commit to these people's money? I treat their money like it's my money. And am I going to
wait, hold on.
Yeah.
You don't treat it like it's your money. You treat it like it's their money. It's even worse if you lose their money than your own.
True. Yeah. Well said. I agree. I mean, it's like, it's extremely serious, but people make it seem like it's easy. Like, hey, I raised $3 million. I bought this 100-unit property. I got 3 points to manage it. And then I'm getting, an automatic 10% equity split. And like, they're talking all this cool language, and I get it. Most people don't get it, but are you really doing, I don't want to bust your balls on the show here, but I mean, how often are you doing reports?
Yeah.
How often? Yeah.
So, I mean, the syndications we've done have been pretty small groups of investors. We've been very fortunate because we have a core group of investors, but But we do quarterly reporting. And then if anything changes on the property, like if there's something we think they should know, then we'll do the reports more frequently. So if a tenant moves out or we get a new tenant, we'll give a quick, short email update. Hey, we're real excited. We just moved in this long-term tenant in an office building or something. But typically it's a quarterly report. And then we have the property management software that is updated, as people pay and as expenses are accrued. And every one of our investors has access to that portal so they can see real time what's going on, what money came in, what money went out. And then if they have questions, of course, we're going to answer those. And then there's a secondary issue too, which is, if you have good investors, you want to keep them happy because you want them to invest in your next deal. So you're going to have to, be reaching out to them periodically, having conversations, making sure that, that they're comfortable with what's going on. They understand what's going on. And, you will get some people like the person you were describing that's like all, asking specific questions all the time. And the best thing you can do with those people is don't take their money because, not all money's equal, right? Some people are very comfortable being quite passive. Other people need to be active. And if you're trying to create the right type of investment for yourself, you've got to consider what level of effort are you willing to put in. And if you want to be a full-time job and you want to deal with the investors all the time and, you can be like an investor relation guy. I mean, some of these big syndicators, they've got full-time people that all they do is talk to investors and answer questions. But we're much smaller than that. We're not buying, 10, 100 unit apartment complexes a month or whatever these guys are doing. We're just trying to do 3, 4, 5 really solid deals a year and make sure that we're getting good returns and that our investors are happy.
Absolutely. I love the simplistic small. There's a book out. I can't remember. Small is the New Giant, but I got to share that book with you later. But another question is, you mentioned commercial and you mentioned, multifamily is commercial too, but do you have like retail syndications or which one do you like better? Or have you, give us a comparison. My show is basically residential real estate, some apartments, but give us a comparison of the two and which do you like better? And
yeah, so personally, I like them both for different reasons. So I don't know if I could say I like one better than the other. There's kind of a sliding scale of what you have to do when you look at it. So, single family homes are, they're a lot different than multifamily, as you know, and I'm sure you've covered that on your show. I've listened to some of your episodes. I think you have like 1 million episodes, so I haven't heard them all yet. Like 500.
No, I don't expect you to. I just expect you to the old, old fashioned to be up there, like.
Yeah,
don't sweat it, man. I'm an overachiever.
So
I'm an overachiever.
You've got plenty of time to catch up on ours, but yeah. So so what we look at when we're looking at these deals is
I almost watched one right before I.
Yeah, that's cool. I think we got a little bit of a glitch there. Sorry about that. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Okay, we're ready. I'm ready.
All right, cool. So
commercial versus.
Yeah, so the commercial stuff, like, you get the office buildings and you're signing 5-year leases with, term renewals and things like that. So there's a lot less turnover. The income is much more predictable in the short term. The downside, I think, to that is if you do lose a tenant, it can be a long period before you replace that tenant. So you have to have a really good understanding what that market's like before you jump in there. And it's the same with retail. Actually, retail is even worse. So we talked a little bit about my education, but what I didn't tell you is I also have an MBA because I'm kind of a glutton for punishment. So I go to school a lot. In fact, I'm taking classes in real estate investing now, like online classes at Harvard, which is another thing. It's pretty interesting, but it's a lot of work. So I'm not sure it was a good call or not. But one of the things we think about is with retail, all of the economic activity that sort of dictates the value of the rent is produced on site, right? So like if you have a bad location, there's no fixing it. A lot, you can't put a Starbucks inside a warehouse. Like it's just never going to work. It's got to have foot traffic. I mean, you can do it if it's in the right place, but it's all location based. With apartments, someone can drive 5 minutes out of the way to get home every day, and they don't worry about it, right? But they don't do that to buy a cup of coffee. So it is kind of a different market and makes it the retail stuff is you really got to know your thing. I mean, that's why they do these like, malls that have like anchor tenants that they basically give them free rent to draw traffic in, right? So they can get more rent on other ones. And that's something that we've dabbled in, but it's not something that we're going to do a lot of because it's a bit more complicated. It's a bit riskier. Office buildings and flex space, industrial space, it's a lot more predictable, but none of it's as predictable as the multifamily, right? Like if someone moves out, someone moves in. If you have 100 units and 5 people move out, you still have 95 units full, right? I mean, if you buy an office building, you might have 4 suites or 5 suites, and if one moves out, you're 20% vacant. And so that's kind of the comparison point. I think it's hard to do syndications with things that are not commercial unless they're short-term, like new construction type deals, because you really have to have either residential commercial like multifamily, or you have to have office or industrial or something, because you need to be able to show some forced appreciation through increasing the income over time. That's a big part of the projected returns, and it's really hard to do that on like a package of single family homes. I know some guys do that, but that stuff's so market dependent that you don't have any control over the value. And I think that's probably why, if you're going to get into commercial and you haven't done any commercial before, you should definitely start in multifamily. And we certainly did, and most of our stuff is multifamily commercial.
All right. So tell me about your goals now. Like, are you driven by like the cash flow, the units? Do you want properties all over the country? Give us a perspective of your vision of what you see old-fashioned real estate.
Yeah. So old-fashioned real estate, I mean, what we see for that is we just want to keep helping people. Like the main reason we have the show is we want to get more exposure to us, but we also want to, give back and give valuable content to our listeners and our viewers. So, I mean, that's what we think of old-fashioned real estate. As far as the syndication side of the business, we're looking for continuing to grow to bigger projects and to raise more money as a result of that, and probably focus on regions that we're comfortable with and market segments that we're comfortable with, at least in the short term. Because, there probably are great deals in Phoenix, and I know people that are buying in Phoenix, and I'm sure there are great deals where you're at in Oklahoma City, but I don't know that much about Oklahoma City, right? I know about Chattanooga. I live in Chattanooga. I'm from Michigan, so I know a bit about that, and I have a lot of property in Michigan still, and I'm going to continue to buy there. In fact, we're closing an apartment complex on the 15th, so like 10 days from now. It's a 41 unit. With my partner Travis up there. That's not a syndication. It's just one we're buying for our portfolio. And we're gonna continue to buy up there. We might do some syndications up there, but we're gonna focus on areas that we understand and expand out from there. If it's a I'm not gonna buy an office building in California. It might be a great deal, but I just don't know. I don't have any network there. I don't have any people there. I wouldn't know if it was a good deal or not. But I might buy an office building in Chattanooga, even though I don't have a lot of office buildings in my portfolio, because I understand the market more. And I can buy an apartment complex 2 hours from me a lot easier than I can buy, a retail space 2 hours from me, because I understand what apartment complexes are like. So I think you just got to stick with what you know, and if you do that, you can probably be okay. And that's what our goal is, just to keep growing, but to stick with
awesome. Yeah, well said. I mean, we're so much alike. I don't expand outside of what I know. I mean, that's the main reason why I even did Investor Weekend in Chattanooga, is because I love that market. It's so much like Oklahoma City, and I want to buy there because I have great friends there. And I think the same way. Like, I don't, there's some New Mexico deals, there's Chicago deal or Illinois deals. And I almost chased after Detroit when it collapsed, when houses were $2,000, $5,000. But then, just a little research. Yeah, just a little research, and their taxes are still the same. I'm like, that poor economy there is just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, there were some houses that we bought. We went in 2013 or 14. Travis and I bought some houses in a tax sale, and the taxes were, the houses would sell for like $500 or $600. It was crazy. But then they'd be subject to the back taxes, and it'd be like $2,000, $2,500 a year in taxes on a $500 house. Some of them we came out okay, but some of them we ended up, really not coming out well on at all. So you can't just buy stuff because it's cheap. It's not a good strategy. You definitely got to understand.
Amen. You know, yeah, it's true. A friend of mine bought 5 houses up there, and that was the exact same thing. He said the taxes were outrageous. He could never cash flow, and he broke even, but he got out. But it's not glamorous as what people think it is. All right, so we're going to wrap this up, and I'm excited to see you in exactly 1 week. And you know, so if you're tuning in, make sure you come meet Jeff, and we're gonna have some old fashioned somewhere. But what advice would you give now? I mean, you took a little bumpy road, got motivated, went right to the top of what real estate is, of syndicating. What advice would you give someone that's young or even older, never even thought about it? What would you say to that individual?
You don't be afraid. Like, that's the biggest thing about real estate. I think I spent like 10 years thinking about real estate before I got into real estate. And, you know, maybe I wouldn't have even been bankrupt if I had real estate when I got sick, right? I mean, my biggest regret is not starting sooner. So, but also it's never too late to start, right? Because I could have started sooner. I might have been in a different place, but maybe I'd have been in a worse place. I mean, I don't know. I can't predict that. What I do know is there's always opportunity out there. And if you look for it and you pay attention and you study what you're doing, then you're going to do fine in the long run. I mean, you're going to have bumps. There's going to be deals you made that weren't good. Like, some of them in Detroit weren't good. Some of them are great. I mean, I'm not saying don't buy in Detroit. I'm just saying make sure you understand what you're buying, and then you'll be okay.
All right, man. So let's talk about how can people get to know you? You have a radio show or a video, TV show, podcast. What's that? Where is it? How do we get there?
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate it. So, you know, it's Old Fashioned Real Estate Show. We're on YouTube right now. I think we're going to roll out a radio version that's audio only, but we haven't done that yet, so don't go looking for it this week. But just Old Fashioned Real Estate, just get on YouTube, check out Old Fashioned Real Estate. I think it's youtube.com/Old Fashioned Real Estate, like the drink. And what we do on that show is we drink old fashions and talk about real estate. Like, that's literally it. It's about 15 minutes, basically the amount of time it takes to have one drink. And it's just Brian and I sit down, we'll have a drink together, and we'll talk about whatever that topic is of the day. And it's been a lot of fun, and it's been really great. And, of course, we have a website, oldfashionedrealestate.com, and we're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, you know, Instagram. Pretty much anywhere you can find us, it's Old Fashioned Real Estate.
Cool, man. Well, I'm really honored to know you and excited, and hopefully I can syndicate with you and be one of your passive investors, hopefully in Chattanooga. So if you're buying an apartment building there, it would give me a great reason to get on a plane and come check out the asset.
Yeah, for sure. You're welcome anytime. And if you get over here, let me know.
All right. Have a great day. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Investor Weekend is not far off, with over 10 information sessions to increase your portfolio. Log on to www.investorweekend.com. Whether you are a seasoned investor or never purchased a property before, you don't want to miss the Investor Weekend. Join us for a powerful, knowledge-packed weekend with over 10 informational sessions that are bound to enlarge your real estate investments. You will hear from the best national and local real estate investors that will share practical and relevant experiences with you, the investor. There will be several networking sessions to connect with other like-minded people for potential funding, partnerships, and yes, hot deals. Go to www.investorweekend.com. Did you know we meet once a month for the Landlord Lunch meeting? The third Wednesday of every month. Go to landlordlunch.com.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.